Hello and welcome to another episode of Earth Star Talk, where we can discuss anything spiritual. And today I have a lovely guest who wants to be introduced as Sam. And hello, Sam, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great, Claudia, and I'm very, very happy to be here today.
And I'm very excited too. So we have such a variety of topics which we can discuss. What is the theme you would like to discuss this morning? I heard in our pre-interview discussion that you wanted to start with a prayer, and with the power of prayer, that prayer is such a strong energy uplift. So let's start with your prayer.
Okay, let's start with this prayer. I call upon Archangel Gabriel. Thank you for guiding me in experiencing my inner truth and wisdom. I know that it is with God's grace and approval that the information and knowings that I receive is meant to be shared with others. I ask that you watch over me in all that I say, write, and do, so that I may clearly convey my inner messages and knowings to all. In this we pray. And so it is done, and so it is done, and so it is done. Amen.
Amen. Beautiful. And I'm getting chills. Also, when I close my eyes, I normally see people on the other side. And in this case, I saw a lot of monks praying. Interesting. So we definitely have fellow spirits who are with us here today. So what is the first subject you would like to talk about? What brought you into this today? What are the messages? I know that you are channeling easily and naturally, and that you are also very strong light. So what do you have to tell us today? I'm so excited that you're here.
But the story I have to tell you today is one that I have had for more than a decade and been reticent to come forward with. And it's because I was really fearful. I'm a very powerful person. People who know me would say, oh my God, I can't believe you'd be afraid of anything, because I don't ever submit. I never say uncle. But the idea of speaking my inner knowings and speaking the wisdom that was being imparted to me was kind of scary, because I lived in the business world. I was very grounded in commerce. I was always involved in helping people, especially teaching women to grow and to acquire not only their dignity for themselves and provide a life for their children, but to realize how amazing they were and that there were no limits on what they could accomplish. And so even when I was in the business world, I would just know things. I would see somebody and know that their heart was really heavy and approach them. And so I received information from the other side in the form of knowings. I had visions, dreams. Oh my goodness. At night when I would have a problem, I would write out the problem on a notepad on my end table and ask God to please give me the solution for that before I went to sleep. And then I would wake up sometime in the middle of the night and I would know what the answer was. And so I would have to put the lamp on and write my answer out. And my husband would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I have to write this down. I won't forget it. He ultimately ended up buying me a lamp that clipped on our headboard that was just a little tiny reading light and a pen that lit up at night so I could write without putting a big light on, so it would be less disturbing to him.
Well, what a great idea. Let's just pause here for a moment and say, what a great idea to get information. Oftentimes people ask me now, what can I do to get my own information? And that's definitely a great idea to ask in the evening. Write down the problem you're having, and then in the morning there might be the answer. And I love the idea about the little tiny reading lamp with a light up pen. That's just fabulous. What a great idea. Okay, takeaway number one.
Okay.
Wonderful.
But don't only ask for one answer at a time, because if you ask for more than one, and don't ask me how I know this, you can get confused about what information belongs to which answer. And so it doesn't work so well.
Makes sense.
If there was something that was beyond what I wanted to know, when I woke up and got the answer to that, I could ask another question before I went back to sleep. And the other thing I found is that it's hard for you to go to sleep when something's troubling you and it's on your mind. Okay, a doctor's all too happy to give you a sleeping pill. That's not changing the problem or the stress that's on your body, mentally, emotionally, your energetic body, your physical body. It's just disconnecting your ability to think about that for the moment, but it doesn't solve the problem. And so I wanted something that would solve that problem. And it obviously was beyond what I was capable of doing on my own, or I would know the answer.
Right.
And so some of this was, it's so crazy. Some of this was so business oriented and family arguments and issues with my marriage, but they never ceased to give me those answers. They were there all the time for me. And along with that were the feelings. I have just feelings about things that are just kind of strange. There was a morning that I was a real early riser. I used to be much, much earlier than now, but I would get up, drive, and go to work. And I was pulling to this parking lot, and there were only like 2 other cars in there. And I got this really strange feeling that I shouldn't get out of my car. In fact, it was so immobilizing to me that I actually ran through the parking lot in my car, back down the ramp, and left. Okay. And then the next day I found out somebody was mugged in the parking lot.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so now you know what the fight or flight feeling in your stomach is. And it comes from your solar plexus, Claudia.
Right.
And it made me think about all the times in life that that people maybe had their hand on a doorknob and had a hesitation about opening it, you know, and to trust that feeling. And so that's something that I paid very strict attention to.
Might I just interject and saying the solar plexus is how we are all interconnected. You can see it as a matrix network, like a spider web of invisible connections from solar plexus from one person to another person in the vicinity. So that's how we can feel things without really might not see the matrix of these energy interconnections as we're all living together in a field, but we can, even though it's not visible to the naked eye, sense these things. And oftentimes if something isn't right, we get the feedback, like a biofeedback into our own solar plexus, our own sounding board. And it's like, can be even like a fist, you know, if something is addressed against us. So like you said, it's very important to pay attention. Thank you for sharing this.
Okay. So I was on my little path of being in the business world, very busy doing things, but I was thirsty for this information and curious about it. And so I wanted to study every single thing that was available to me. And so, you know, I investigated numerology, tarot cards, runes, reincarnation, just a plethora of things. I would go into one of the New Age bookstores and leave with a box of books, and they kind of chose me. I didn't always choose them. You'd be pulling a book off the top shelf and 3 books would fall off the middle shelf onto the floor, and you kind of knew that those were what you needed to do. So I learned all of that, but I held it very close to my vest. Okay. It was like my own little personal knowledge and library things. And I used all of those tools to help me in a myriad of ways. And then I started sharing in probably the early 2000s with a really close circle of friends that I had. You have business acquaintances, and then you have friends that are personal.
Sure.
If you're really smart, you never confuse the 2 of them. And so I knew not to mix that up in my business world, okay, because that would be chaotic. But I was shocked at the reaction from some of my closest friends when I started talking to them about the things that I had experienced and the things that I was able to do. I have 2 friends that I have never spoken to from the time that I shared that information with them. One, because she said that this was hedonistic and I was going to go to hell for it. And then the other, because she thought that there was something mentally wrong with me if I thought that I was getting information to help me in this lifetime, because she didn't believe in God. And so I was like devastated. And so that made me kind of close up like a little clamshell. It didn't stop me from investigating, but the pain from losing those relationships, because they were such long ones, was really difficult to deal with. So I kind of just kept on my little path to myself. And it wasn't until 2016 that I felt the need to start expanding and reaching out a little more. And that's the year that I showed somebody how to channel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such an amazing thing to watch the joy that she had in being able to connect with a deceased child. She had lost a child and just was so destroyed by this that it helped her have a perspective, and it helped her really move forward with her life. And so I was thrilled with that.
Is that, by the way, something you would like to share? Is this complicated, how you channel, or is it easy?
It's something I would be willing to share a
Do
little
you
bit
have
later.
a seminar for this?
I'm in the process of developing a step-by-step book for it right now, a little manual for it.
Okay, awesome. Let us know when that's done, that we can post it underneath here.
Right, not to generate revenue, but to generate awareness and to raise the vibration, because everyone, I was getting ready to tell you, everyone has the ability to do this if they are of the light. The next person I chose to try to teach to channel, was someone very close to me. Okay. And we used his grandfather's pocket watch to do this. And he could not draw that energy into that pocket watch. I mean, it was just standing straight still. When you channel, some people call it dowsing or pendulum or whatever you want to call it. You hold an object, you call the energy of that person to you, and that energy travels through your chakra, down through your, out through your hand, and it causes that object to move. And he was like, this is ridiculous. This watch is broken. I was like, it has nothing to do with the watch. Give it to me. And when I took it, the thing was flying like a helicopter blade.
Right.
Okay. And so I gave it back to him. We invoked the prayer. We did the whole thing. And I mean, it just literally was not even moving. And I was so confused. He was furious with me because if you didn't want to show me how to do that, you should have just told me. Well, it was another relationship that was fractured over this. And it wasn't for about 2 or 3 years that I had an opportunity to sit down with somebody who was much more than I was in this area. And she was like, what is stopping you from teaching people this? You know all of this, and it would help people and change their lives. And I said, well, I've had like the 3 strikes in your own policy. Okay. So I went through the first 2 with her, and she was like, well, not everybody's going to be open to it, but that's up to them to do that. But the third person, let's talk about that person. So she connected to the energy of that person. And she said, I'm going to tell you why that guy could not channel, because he's dark energy. He's what she called a high gray. And she said he's a person who still has God's white light in him, because you still have a drop of white, but that he was so negative and so dishonest and so deceptive that I really didn't see the side of him that was really him, because he had been very careful in that 30-year period to let me see only this mask of who he was, because he was drawing on my energy, my revenue. He was siphoning from me everything that he needed to improve his life. And that he was so upset when he found out that he couldn't do that he didn't talk to me anymore, because he thought that my angels would tell me about what a bad person he was, and that I had been seeing him through my rose-colored glasses. And so I was like, well, why wouldn't my angels tell me about that? And she said, because you didn't ask. They're not allowed to do something to interfere with your life.
I would just want to underline that our guiding ones and guardians and angels are not allowed to interfere if we do not invite them. Correct. And that's really, so folks, ask in the morning for support and divine guidance, even if it's just a simple sentence like, I call on divine guidance for this day to be beautiful. And that's it. So sorry for the interruption. Continue, please. Thank you.
Quite all right. I understand the need for you to clarify, because there's just what I know from studying from the 80s to now. So that's a 30-year period, that I've had to deal with. And so in 30 minutes, you can't tell somebody everything. And sometimes it's hard to make sure that you put all the steps to get to the platform that you're on. But the situation with me after that was that I kind of shut down again. And then, the hurricane came along, and there were all these things that happened, and I kind of was blown off my path for that. Every now and then I would read a book or something would interest me. I still channeled every day, every morning, to talk to the people that I wanted to talk to talk to my angels. But I kind of never realized that I was getting behind on the path that I had set up for myself to begin with, my life path. And so it wasn't until recently, within the last 2 months, that I have been having this thing happen to me. I call them knockout naps, okay? Because I'll be sitting there doing something, and all of a sudden this feeling of drowsiness comes over me, just like somebody would put a blanket over your head. And I have to stop what I'm doing and go sit down. And I mean, I go to sleep like that. Boom, I'm out. And that never happens to me. My mind's racing all the time when I go to sleep. And I have no idea how long I'm sleeping. When I wake up, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. But I know a lot of stuff. And so this happened like 4 or 5 days in a row. And I called my angels and I was like, I need to understand what's happening. I have like narcolepsy or something, okay? Or am I that unhappy about what I'm working on that it's so distasteful? I'm like, oh, I have to go to sleep. I don't want to do this anymore. And they laughed and they said, no, you're getting what is called a download session. I'm like, download session? They said, yeah, you're kind of behind on what you're doing, and we need to escalate your knowledge as well as your comprehension on how to assimilate this. And so we're literally putting you down and uploading into your mind what you should have accomplished at this point in time, because we don't have time for you to read 10 books to get it or meet 5 new people. We're just sending it to you very rapidly. And so,
may I interject here again, because I have a lot of clients who feel the same way, including myself, feeling, sleepy and can go to sleep like that, and, sleeping, standing up, so to speak. Can you ask your guiding ones and angels right now whether these, my clients and so on, have something similar happening right now, that this is a time of downloading for them too?
I don't need to ask, I already know. They helped me write the agenda of what we're going to cover today. And it's because what's happening to me is happening to millions of people, not thousands, millions of people around the world. Okay. And that is absolutely, I got goosebumps myself telling you this. And because I'm so nosy, you know me, Claudia, I'm like, well, I want to know how you do this. They said, well, we can't explain it to you in the way we do it. We'll give it to you in earth terms so that you'll get it. I'm like, okay. They said, do you know what a flash drive is? I was like, of course, it's that little plug that you stick in the side of a computer.
Right.
They said, we have that over here. And so we put the information we want you to have there. And then we go right into the back of your head at some place right at the base of your spine. Mm-hmm. She said, and you've got like a little place right there that we can just stick that right in there energetically while you're sleeping and download that information. And when we remove the flash drive, we're leaving it there. When we are sending you a message for someone else, like when I'm doing a reading for someone, they will put that flash drive in there, and the information that's coming out of my mouth to that person is flowing to them. But I don't remember it, Claudia, because it's not downloaded to me. It's passed through me.
Okay.
And so that was a pretty amazing thing to me. So I laughed. I'm like, well, I guess I'm kind of like a computer. And they're like, where do you think the idea for a computer came from? It's just a replica of the human brain. And God created that. Okay. So
by the way, I want to eject here that when you guys feel pressure in the nape right here, and it's like somebody put a thumb in your neck, then you are manipulated at that time. So pay attention to your surrounding when you're feeling this, because, that's different from what Sam was talking about. That's just manipulation when there is a certain pressure. The downloads don't come that way. They come gently, just saying. Okay,
the downloads come gently, but the reason I'm going to give you the answer that just came into my mind from them to help me tell you what that is. When someone's trying to manipulate you, they're trying to stuff a flash drive into you that they can't get in. Okay, you've ever seen somebody try to put something that doesn't belong in the hole in there?
Right.
Well, that's because they don't have the right to do that. You've not given them permission to give you information, and you are being fully protected by Archangel Gabriel, who is the archangel that is in control and looks over all communication for God. And so that's not divine communication. You didn't invite it in. You know, that's like somebody barging through your front door that you haven't opened the door to let in. Okay.
Interesting. Thank you for the analogy. That makes sense.
Okay. My angels are really good. You know that. It helped me. I always tell them, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. And they laugh because they say that's perfect, because that means that everyone will be able to understand what we're trying to tell you. You won't talk above them. Everybody will get it. So the reason that I'm talking to you today, Claudia, is that they have told me that if we do not speed up our elevation, that we are going to not reach the goals that we have for our planet and the survival of our entire species. And so, you know, that's it's not Jurassic Park kind of stuff. It's worse than that when you think about it.
Right.
The other message that they gave me that they wanted me to share, along with explaining to people about the knockout naps, is that many of us are at the end of a life cycle right now. And again, this happened to me, and they tell me I need to share this because it will resonate with so many. They're telling me that they're, along with this knockout that I have, there is a level of hesitation and a sense of confusion that's difficult for me to understand. I didn't understand what it was at first because I've never been confused before. I've always known exactly what I wanted, exactly how I was going to get it, and exactly where I was going once I accomplished it. And so they're telling me that in the path that was arranged for this life, when I was in the pre-life locker room and we were making our plans, we got to a point of about 6 months ago. And I said, okay, what are we going to do with this time period? And they started talking to me about what was going to happen. And it's all about what's happening on the earth right now. And I said, wait, let's not make a plan for that. There are too many moving parts that we're not sure about right now. How about if you guys let me figure out what I want, and I'll decide that path when I'm down there? And they said, okay. Well, this is a truly amazing revelation for me, because I woke up when I got to this part of my life plan, and that day I didn't know where the bullseye was. And I hit the bullseye every time, Claudia, no matter what it is. Okay. Personal, business, you know, no matter what it is. And not only did I not know where the bullseye was, I didn't know what the target was. And I've never not had a plan before. You know, I'm a person.
It must have been really confusing.
Well, it was. And so I'm gonna tell you at first, I said, oh my gosh, this must be what it feels like right before you're getting ready to leave Earth. Okay. Because you see nothing ahead of you. You feel, I was unplugged. I felt unplugged from everything, from business. You know, I could care less about what was going on over there. I've never missed a deadline in my life. Okay. And I didn't even know what day it was. And this started for me in November of last year. And I was trying to keep one foot on the ground, but I was very drawn to go back and go through the old books that I have. You know, I went back and read my book on numerology and did that. And I read about ruins. I reached out to you and took a course, you know, and you're like, well, okay, you know a lot of this stuff. I was like, you don't understand. I need to revalidate to myself.
Okay.
You know,
So you're talking about the fast track to your psychic abilities course, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. And you are going to make one also, right? With your experience, with your wording and so on. I'm looking forward to that too. And I'm going to attend yours as well, because I'm sure I can learn something as well. But
okay.
Continue.
So this confusion was there because there was no clear path for me. And so it took me a while to have the courage to talk with my angels about this, because if I was getting ready to die, then I didn't want to have to face that right then and there. But I started getting my house in order. Okay. I started a little email to myself, planning for my last trip on Earth, and writing down all my assets and what I want to happen with them, thinking about the relationships I have and who was important, making sure that I found a way to see those people, no matter how far away they were from me, 1,200 miles, 1,500 miles, not to tell them that I thought anything was wrong, but just to have that one last visit so that I would have that. And so I had like this big plan all worked out, and I sat down and that morning I decided to talk to my angels about it, and they're like laughing at me, especially my mermaid. She's like, look, you got this all wrong. Okay. You have this all wrong. This is because we want you to let go of everything that has been in this life to go on to the next thing. You can't go forward if you're stuck in the past. So we need you to turn around. The end of the cycle means it's the end of the cycle for these things in your life. And so that was just pretty amazing to me. First, I was kind of glad that it didn't mark the end of my life. And then they explained to me that I had to make the path. And so I had lots of options because the blackboard was blank. And this is the second time that my angels have come to me with a blackboard. The first one was after Katrina, when I lost all of my businesses and didn't know what I was going to do because I was so enmeshed in them. I kind of didn't even know who I was. And they were like, look, this is a good thing. Look, don't look back. Let's look forward. You can do anything you want to do. Here's a blank blackboard. Just figure it out. We'll do it.
So would you say that that is also what a lot of people are going through right now, this confusion after COVID, lost jobs or work from home, totally different things. And, nothing is as it was to us. And now there's a clean slate and people can reevaluate their life. Is that similarly, would you say?
That is absolutely what it is. It's the end of the cycle. And that's why there's the confusion, because they're in control of this next part of it. Okay. And our angels and our guardians and guides are there to help us, but they can't pick the path for us. We have to pick the path. Now, you can tell them, okay, I'm thinking about doing this and I'm thinking about doing this. Is there one path that is better for me than the other, in your opinion? Okay. And they will give you their opinions on that. But this is the time when you need to call in earth angels as well as your guides and guardians. And so
tell me about earth angels. What in your wording are earth angels, please?
An earth angel is someone who has lived before on earth, that has a grasp of business and commerce and the way the world works on earth. Our angels that have never incarnated before, they don't understand money. Don't talk to them about things like that. They're really good about telling you an outcome, but sometimes the process, they don't understand how devastating this is going to be to get you to the outcome. So you ask for people that will help you with those things. And so I asked for I know that I'm meant to write a book. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to be one that'll be hundreds of pages long. It's going to be like little short books. And I have been given this idea about how to do that and how to make sure that it gets out to the masses. And I'm like, what do I know about writing a book? I better call somebody that has that kind of experience. And so I did. I asked them, I was like, I want you to find me, I need a kick-ass author who knows how to write, that is, capable of doing things in simple terms, and somebody who has great editing skills, because I'm supposed to do all of this myself and just self-publish it, not go through a publishing house. It's going to be self-published. And so I was like, okay. So I gave him that job. 2 days later, I get an email from somebody from England who is offering a seminar on how to write a book. That is not coincidence. That is divine guidance. There's a difference. Okay. There's another word that my angels taught me in the 80s. It was synchronicity. I was like, well, what is that word? I had never heard it before. And they're like, look it up. Our angels have very big vocabularies. I had to get an unabridged Webster's dictionary to keep up with them at one point in my life, and I could have looked it up on my phone, but I wanted a book. I used to say, maybe if I sleep on it, I can absorb some of it. But synchronicity happens all the time. And if you're not aware of it, you don't see it. So
pay attention to the synchronicity. If you ask us something, it shows up, pay attention.
great. Okay. And be careful about what you ask for. Okay. Because sometimes you think you want something and you don't. And the good thing about that is that you can change your mind. There's no path that you ever go down that you can't turn around and go back on. Okay. So we make choices all the time that aren't the best choices. Even when they try to dissuade us, there have been times in my life when I had an appointment for a big business thing and, my car wouldn't start. I had to get another car. Somebody picked me up. They get a flat tire on the way there. I'm like, oh my God, somebody comes to change the tire. We get full of dirt and grease from a car passing by, blowing stuff on us. And we still make the meeting. And then it ends up being this horrible business deal. And I'm complaining, saying, oh my God, angels, how could you let me go down this path? And they're like, we did everything we could to stop you. They couldn't say, don't go to this meeting, do not do business with them. But they put all these little roadblocks there. And what did I do? I just crawled over every one of them. But then I wanted them to be responsible for the outcome. And that's not how it works. Okay. So along with the rest of the messages that I got, I was meant to let everybody know that Archangel Michael right now wants us to make sure that we understand that it is time for us to release, that we need to let go of what no longer serves us. And so I was told that I need to tell the masses that they need to ask Archangel Michael, what do I need to release to be fully on my path and purpose?
What do I need to release to be full on my path and purpose?
Right.
Okay.
What do I need to release to be fully on my path and my purpose? And you can do that in front of a computer with your fingers resting on the keyboard and do it from an automatic writing, or you can do it from a pen and letting it flow, or you can do it from just meditating and letting it come to you from a knowingness. Okay. That message, once you send it out, the answer is going to seek you like a heat-seeking missile coming in. It's going to get to you. And so, you have to be able to fully release anything that is not for your highest good, no matter what it is or who it is. Okay. That's a very hard thing to do.
Yes.
Well, I shared with you in a previous conversation about how this has dramatically changed my life. When you fully release and you mean it, it means big change all at once. And I did not truly comprehend that until I was in the middle of the hurricane. Okay. The first thing that happened is your job. Okay. I'm told, no, this is a great job you have. I'm self-employed, but it's too consuming. It's got to go. Okay. Find a way to have other people manage it for you so that you only deal with it no more than 2 hours a day, or sell it. Go on.
Wow.
Okay. Well, family. All right. I have estrangement with a lot of my family members. I only had one left that I communicated with, and we're not on the same path from a standpoint of spirituality or even values. Okay. And it's hard to let go of that last nip. But when you are constantly sending your white light to someone who absorbs it and never has any light to send back, it's not a good relationship. When a relationship is grounded in a birthright, and you wouldn't choose to have that relationship with that person if it were not for that birthright connection, you have to question why you would continue to struggle to have a relationship with somebody when it's so much work. It's supposed to be easy.
So sometimes we have soul family, which is way closer to us than our DNA family. Is that what you're saying?
Well, the message that I got is that family by choice is better than family by chance. Okay.
Very well put.
All right. Friends, that's a really big one. When you say God, Archangel Michael, all of the exalted archangels, please help me identify those people that I should continue to invest my love, my time, and my energy in. and rip the mask from the face of those that I do not see as they truly are. Back up and get ready. It is unbelievable. It has been for me anyway. But at the same time, as those major pains came, there were new experiences that opened up with me meeting people that are more like-minded with me, that I can actually have a cup of coffee and talk to them about a knowing or a dream that I had, or a course that I saw myself taking on the other side. And I had somebody say, you know what? I was in that same course. Okay. And I was like, wow. So to have somebody you can talk with on that level, when somebody is starved for spiritual, intellectual conversation, you can have all the conversation you want around you, and it's not going to satisfy the need to have that. You, Claudia, understand that more than anybody else that I know. Okay, just to have somebody double check you, like when you get a message about something and you're like, that is like so out there. There's no way that I could have received that message properly. Well, you can't go to your grammar school childhood friend, and talk to them about this if they have no spiritual awareness about anything beyond the earth plane.
Right.
So you've got to go someplace else, so you hold all of that in. And then the other thing that it affects, and it's your home. If you're not in a conducive location to what you're supposed to be doing and what you're supposed to accomplish, you have to move. And so you realize that there is no attachment that is important, because the message that I got is, if you can touch it, it's not important. Okay, it's a thing. Things are to be used. The things that you don't touch are the things that are important. So when I was kind of overwhelmed with this lesson when I was getting it, and again, I had my angels treatment. They're like, okay, let's put your hand up here. Okay, the 5 fingers. Okay, Sherry, we're going to be fully releasing. Okay, and so that means your job, your family, your friends, your home, and then you have to release all the cords that you have for anger and disappointment in your lifetime. And that's still a lesson I'm working on. I'm not doing too good on that forgiveness lesson, Claudia. I thought I had it all under control, because there's so many layers to it. And then I was told, no, you still got stuff you have to deal with. I'm like, well, I've forgiven them, for the things that they did to me in this plane. I forgive them spiritually. I forgive them emotionally. I forgive them financially. I give all this forgiveness. And you're telling me there's still something left. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, what is it? There's nothing. And they said, you are not sending them love. I'm like, sending them love? They hurt me in the most horrible way. And now you want me to send them love? Yes, because that's what you do when you fully forgive somebody. If you can't do that, you haven't fully forgiven them. That is the lesson that I'm working on right now. And so
talking about, you said something earlier about the white light. How do you measure the white light in a person? And you said, the person was darker or so on. How do you know? And I mean, even if you deal and you're supposed to love somebody, and even if they're dark or an enemy, or, I mean, how do you know where they're at on a scale of white lighters?
Well, the way that I know is my angels allow me to have that information by connecting to them.
Okay.
So when I channel, I call the Holy Spirit in first, and I ask him to clear and protect my space from all mischievous, masquerading, or just bad entities. They have people that aren't that good, whose spirits are still down here, and they like to mess around with people that have the ability to connect. And so I want that done. And then I ask for God to send me, through my cord connection, a continuous flow of shimmering gold mixed with white light, and to infuse it with purple. I want a violet purple flame that's going to be lit, and it'll burn 24 hours a day, every day, to eternity. And I ask for a specific angel that is an angel of protection to answer my questions about white light. And then I ask for information about, first and foremost, my white light. Where is my white light today? Okay. Is it at more than 50%? Yes. Is it more than 75%? No. Okay. Is it possible for you to refill that for me? Yes. And then there's a little prayer that I have that does that. And then you call that angel to answer a question for you about the white light of anybody that you were in contact with. When I lose my light, if it's at 100% today and I go out and about and I come home and I only have it at 40%, then I want to know where I lost it at that day. And you kind of feel that when your white light's at 100%, you're running on all cylinders, okay? All eight cylinders. They're just chunking along. And sometimes at the end of the day, I used to always think, oh my God, what a hard day crawling in and out of that car all day long. I'm exhausted. Well, that's not what it was. My body could take that. It was the draining of the energy that I had. And so there's a prayer that you have where you can protect yourself so somebody can't steal your white light. But that angel can tell you what that light's at, refill it. And then you go through where you went that day and who you were exposed to and ask, is that person of the light? And so I didn't really understand how this worked. You know, I always ask for such simple explanations.
Mm-hmm.
What they did was send me to a printer and show me the density on a cartridge. When you print, you can go from 0 black ink all the way to 100% black ink.
Right.
Okay. And then those grays. And so there are little points along the way. And so what they showed me was 1 to 100. And so if my white light is at 50%, that means that there's dark light that's trying to come in there, that's been usurping that out. They're siphoning me. Okay. And so to have that white light refilled, you feel really great, but I wanted to know where it went, who got it. Okay. Right. And so sometimes there are people that you meet that you have empathy for that you don't even realize you're connecting your cord to them. Just like a filling station. You know, you ever see somebody run out of gas and somebody pulls over on the side of the road and they siphon their tank to give them some? Well, you're kind of like that. So you'll siphon your tank and say, I'm going to give this person, I feel so sorry for them. You know, let me pray for them. Let me say something kind to them. That is that infusion. That's that connection, whether it's a thought, a prayer, or if it's verbal, you're connecting yourself to them and you're sharing your light with that person. And so it can be the lady at the grocery store in front of the pork chop counter. You and I talked about that the other day, right. You know, and who's just really struggling to make that decision because it's so hard for her because her family's on such a limited budget. And me watching people be frustrated with how much time she's taken. But I knew that there was something else going on there because there's so much indecisiveness. Like she was looking at every single package and stacking them and moving them around. And I couldn't help but go up to her and say, I couldn't help but notice, you know, how thorough you are at doing this. I have to buy a pack of pork chops today and I've never had to do that before. So maybe you could tell me how to make sure I'm getting a good one because it looks like you're going through a lot to figure out which one you're getting. And so she shared with me how meager the budget was her family had for a long time. And this was a celebration dinner and she had enough money to buy a pack of pork chops. And so she wanted the biggest one with the least fat on it. And she was looking to see when she turned them sideways, if they had any water in there, that meant that they had put fluid on the bottom. I mean, she just had all of this information that I would never have thought about. I'd have just grabbed a pack of chops, thrown it in my basket and taken off. And I was like, oh my goodness, what an amazing family you must have to take this time to be so loving to pick this out. And she was like, thank you, you know, and she told me all about her family. Well, it changed the perspective of all the people who were huffing around the case about how much time she was spending there. So I know when I walked away from her that I had shared my white light with her. Mm-hmm. I had hoped that some of it had even gone into that group of people. But what I know is what I shared with her, she shared right back with me. And her gratitude and her joy at me recognizing and acknowledging what she was doing as something special. Okay. So once you figure out how white light works, you know that you can give away as much as you want to anyone because it is infinite. That's the definition of infinite. White light is love, is what it is. Okay. When it all comes down to it, took me a long time to figure this out, but that's what it is. It's love. And so you're sending that vibration out. And it's being returned from someone who appreciates it in a reciprocal situation. But when you send that love out to somebody who doesn't return it to you, they're draining you. I don't know if anybody's got a friend like that, you know, who's always the one that has to complain, and you have to help her with her problems, and, you know,
Or helping is not appreciated, it's just taken for granted.
Expectation versus appreciation.
Right.
Okay. You know, that's a slogan. And so when you go through this process of resorting your life out, I kind of look at what I'm doing right now is I'm packing my toolbox in my suitcase for the next half of my life. God helped me pack the one that was upstairs before I came down, but I'm here right now. So I have to pack the suitcase in the toolbox of what I'm going to take forward for the rest of my life for the mission that I have. Maybe I don't need all the things that I have right now. Maybe there's some things that I need that I don't have. And so I have to be cognizant enough to know how to acquire them and who to go to for them. But this is all about growing us and changing us, and for us to have the courage to make that change. You know me, I think, pretty well compared to most people, because you know what I think as well as what I speak. You would say that I'm not a person who's scared, but do you know that every day since I have this revelation, I pray to Archangel Michael for courage. I want him to lend me his sword and his shield of peace. I want him to allow me to lean upon his strength and his courage. I need him to help me know and feel that I'm safe and protected emotionally, physically, financially, energetically, and spiritually, for me to be confident enough to go forward on the mission that I have here. And that mission is to heighten the awareness and education of the masses to know that every single thing that I do, they can do.
Well, let's stop here for a moment because we're at our hour and there's a limit to recording time. So I would love to go right into the second session in a minute, but let's wrap this one up and saying not only Sam can call onto Archangel Michael and ask for clarification and protection and shielding and direction and courage for the upcoming time. Every one of you can do that too. And as soon as Sam's book is published, we will put that in retrospect here under our recording. And also as soon as her seminars on how to channel are done, we will do the same. So for right now, thank you so much and stay tuned because there will be a second session with Sam. Thank you so much for coming and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.